Hello everyone, and welcome back to another math video. In this video, we are going to talk about the Cartesian plane. So when we talk about the Cartesian plane, we're talking about a set of coordinate axes that divides the plane into four pieces. This horizontal axis, is called the x-axis, and this vertical line is called the y-axis. And where the x-axis crosses the y-axis is this place called the origin. So when we talk about graphing a set of points, we're going to talk about an ordered pair. It's going to have an x-coordinate and it's going to have a y-coordinate. The x-coordinate will move left or right, and the y-coordinate is going to move up or down. And that's going to tell us where we're going to plot a point. So the sign tells us which way to move. So if we had something like -1, 3, -1 from the origin would move left 1. Negatives are going to move left, and then it would move up 3. So our point would live right here. If we had positive y values and x values, something like this, 1, 2, the point 1, 2 would move right 1 and then up 2. So it would live right here. If we had a negative x and a negative y, then from the origin, the negative just tells us we're going to move left and then down. It does take both movements to be able to plot a point. So from the origin, we're going to move left 3 and then down 4. Then we're going to have our point here. And then if we talk about another one, maybe we have a positive x and a negative y. In this case, our x value is 3, so we're going to move to the right 3 units and then down 2. Both movements will create our point here. So I'm going to call these points A, B, C, and D. So that first one, -1, 3, was point A. B was 1, 2. C was -3, -4. And then D was +3 and then down 2. So with the Cartesian plane, let me draw my plane again. Here's our x-axis, and then that vertical line is our y-axis. It does split the plane into four pieces, and we can talk about what each quadrant, where it lives. So here's quadrant 1. Notice my x's and my y's are going to be positive. Point B was in quadrant 1. So it's going to have a positive x, and it's going to have a positive y. This quadrant to the left of 1 is quadrant 2. We're going to move in a counterclockwise position. In quadrant 2, my x's are negative and my y's are positive. Then we're going to go down to quadrant 3. In this quadrant, x's are negative and y's are negative because from the origin, we're moving left and down to live in that area. And then the last quadrant is quadrant 4. So from the origin, we're moving in a positive direction. So we're moving to the right, but then down. So we're going to have positive x's and negative y's. So if we're going to identify where each of those points that we had above lives, we could do that. So B is in quadrant 1 as a positive x and a positive y. A lives in quadrant 2, has a negative x because we moved to the left, and then I moved up. So I had a positive y. C is in quadrant 3. And then D is in quadrant 4. And we do use Roman numerals to talk about the location for each of the quadrants. So quadrant 1, 2, 3, and 4. So let's practice graphing some points. And this is where you may want to pause the video, try it, come back and check your answers. So if I look at this first one, A lives in 3, 5. So from the origin, I'm going to move right 3 and I'm going to move up 5. I'm going to place my point, and then I'm going to call this A, so I'm going to label it with an A. So A lives in quadrant 1. B has the ordered pair -6, 2. So I'm going to move left 6. So I always start at the origin, move left 6, and then up 2. And that lives in quadrant 2. C is -4, -7. So -4, -7 is here. Move left 4 down 7. And that lives in quadrant 3. And then D is 7, -3. So I'm going to move to the right 7 and down 3. Label that with a D, and that lives in quadrant 4. So this is where you may want to pause the video, come back and check your answers again. So point E is -8, -1. So we're going to move left 8 down 1. And that is in quadrant 3. F is the point 2, -9. So we're going to move right 2 down 9. Right 2 down 9. That's in quadrant 4. G is the point 9, 9. Move right 9 and up 9. It takes both movements to graph that. That lives in quadrant 1. And then H is -5. So we're going to move left 5 and then 6. So we're going to move up 6. And that lives in quadrant 2. So this is where you may want to pause the video again, try to graph these, and come back and check your answers. I is the point 4, -6. We're going to move right 4 down 6. That lives in quadrant 4. J is the point -7, -2. So from the origin, we're going to move left 7 and down 2. That lives in quadrant 3. K is the point 0, 8. So we're going to move over 0, which means we're going to be on this y-axis and up 8. So this does not live in a quadrant. It lives on the y-axis. So I'm just going to write y-axis there. And then L is the point -3, 3. Sorry, -3, -3. So I'm going to move left 3 and then down 3. And there's point L. And that one lives in quadrant 3 also. Really close to point J. So let's go the other way. Suppose we have ordered pairs already graphed and we want to figure out what is the point. So from the origin, we're just going to count how many points we move left or right and how many points we move up or down. So to get to A, starting at the origin, we're going to move to the right 6, and then we're going to move up 4. So A is the point 6, 4. B lives in quadrant 2. So to get there from the origin, I'm moving left 3. So B is left 3, which means it's a -3. But then I'm moving up, and I'm moving up 7 units. So it's at the point -3, 7. C, to get there from the origin, we're moving left 5 and then down 6. So left 5 would be a -5, down 6 would be a -6. And then D is in quadrant 4. So I'm going to move from the origin, right 8, down 2. So +8 and -2. So this is where you may want to pause the video, come back, check your answers. Point E from the origin is left 9 and up 1. So E is -9, 1. F is in quadrant 4. So we're going to move 4 units to the right and down 8. So 4, -8. G is in quadrant 1. To get there, we're moving right 2 and up 5. And then H, to get to that point in quadrant 3, we're going to move left 6 and down 1. So -6, -1. You may want to pause the video, try this one, then come back and check your answer. So for this one, point M is in quadrant 4. To get there from the origin, we're moving right 5 and down 5. So this is at 5, -5. N is in quadrant 2. To get there, we're moving left 2, up 9. So it's at the point -2, 9. P is in quadrant 3. To get there from the origin, we're moving left 8 and down 3. So -8, -3. And then Q is in quadrant 1. So we're going to move right 1 and up 2. So we're at the point +1, +2. We can graph equations by plotting points. So this equation, we have f of x. This is function notation. Function means, and we'll talk more about this later, but what that means is that it's a fancy way of saying y. So we could just replace that with a y if we wanted to. It means that every x value on this equation corresponds to only one y value. So let's say we have f of x equals 3 times x plus 2, and we want to know what's the y coordinate when x is -2. All we're going to do is plug -2 in, and then we're going to solve. So this would be -6 plus 2, which is a -4. So my ordered pair would be -2, -4. So -2, -4 would live here. So there's my first point. I'm going to do the same thing with -1. We're going to have 3 times -1 plus 2. That's going to be -3 plus 2, which is a -1. So my ordered pair, the x-coordinate was -1, the y-coordinate was -1. -1, -1 lives here. Then we're going to plug in 0. Same thing, we're plugging it in for the x. 3 times 0 plus 2 would be 0 plus 2, which is 2. So my ordered pair, x is 0, y is 2. So I'm moving over 0 and up 2, so it's on the y-axis. And then we're going to plug in 2. So we're going to have 3 times 2 plus 2. So that's 6 plus 2, which is 8. My ordered pair is 2, 8. So from the origin, right 2, up 8. So then what we're going to do to graph the equation is we're just going to connect the dots. So there's our equation, and it is a line. We'll talk more about lines later in this section. So let's look at another example. We have 3 vertices of a rectangle at 10, 2, 5, 2, and 5, 9. And we've got the points plotted. They want us to find the label for the 4th vertex. So if we're doing a rectangle, so we can see that there are points, our lines here connecting 5, 2, and 10, 2. And then we have a line here connecting 5, 9, and 5, 2. So to complete the rectangle, we would need a point here where x is 10 and y is 9. You can see that if I connect all those dots, I create my nice rectangle.